what I've dialed into is the fact that with the Osider magazine, we do 6 a year. So, and it's bi-monthly. So it's really a cyclical process for me being a publisher, advertising sales guy / writer. So it's like, once we get that magazine out, then it's time for me to start collecting checks, getting the bills paid, start planning for the next issue. And then about, 3 weeks into that process, then it's like, let's start garnering new advertising for the next issue. Yep. Then let's get into building the magazine. Let's put it to bed and start all over. With Low Tide, it's constant because it's a new business and it's the surf industry. So that's every day, whether I'm at the beach filming one of my little athletes, or if I'm helping a sales rep make a relationship with a new business that's going to sell our product, or designing, or speaking with my partner about website capabilities. So that's a little more constant, but that's more of they're both passion projects really, but one has a lot more structure to it than the other. The other one's just go, go, go. Yeah.
Because it's been around for a little while. The structure comes from time and experience, and plus you have a history in that field, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was publisher, of Trans World Skateboarding, which at the time was the largest skateboarding magazine in the world. So, I was responsible for, I think at the peak, it was about $7.5 million a year gross. So there was,
so you brought some experience to the table when you launched the Osider.
Definitely. And I think,
so you understand structure and a Fortune 500 probably, or at least large scale operation, what needs to happen.
Yeah, the pressures and the execution is definitely key. And then just the quality of the product, I think too, is something, and that's what we wanted to bring, to the table with the Osider, was bringing that top level quality vertical niche magazine to something like a growing community, because most of the times the community magazines you see are, done on shoddy paper. The writing's not as sexy, and the photos aren't as sharp.
Dude,
and the
you
art
guys go
direction's
above
not
and
great.
beyond on every element. You guys go above and beyond. Honestly, it's a great magazine.
Thank you very much.
It's a great magazine. I read every issue cover to cover. I mean, it's one of those things where I learned something, and that's what's super critical for me. Is time is the most precious commodity on the planet for humans. But you guys teach me something every time I open an issue, especially with the history, like history of Oceanside section is one of my favorites.
Yeah. And, I've been here my whole life and I'm still learning. It's funny. It's, you go to the grocery store now because you kind of put yourself in this position where you're a public figure or somewhat of a custodian of the community. And, people expect you to know everything.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy. I get stopped at the grocery store and people ask me a question about 1942, a building that was, and I'm like, you know what, ma'am, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to look into that. I might not know the answer to that one. If I do, I share, obviously, but I'm constantly educated, and that's what's cool. It's like you grow up in a city and you think you know a lot about it, and then you realize there's so much more culturally, landscape wise, politically, all that stuff. It's just like, wow.
Yeah,
totally. And it's cool to continue to educate and to be educated.
Well, the magazine does a good job of that, no doubt. And I don't know, I was just trying to think, like, the magazine was part of the foundation of what helped COBO launch.
Definitely. We created a great partnership there, and thank you for that.
No, thank you, dude, because I was new to town. This was 3.5 years ago is when I bought my place here. And about a year into that, after designing and all of this stuff, we went to launch. And then I think we connected with Nolan, with Jason Mraz fundraiser here at one of the schools, et cetera, et cetera. And then we ended up connecting with you down at the Buccaneer. I was like, who's this Charger? Like, this dude engages people in a way that is pretty rare. And I would say, when I say engage, I mean that in a positive way, not in like an aggro or a way like that. What I mean is, like, you're an engaging human, and it's pretty cool.
Oh, thank you.
You carry some presence with you. And part of the first meeting with you guys, I don't think we surfed that day, but down there at Buccaneer is kind of a big part of one of the start of the conversations that got us in the magazine, got us exposure locally, got us into, I would say, landed us accounts because we had real hard copy, paper advertisement in an established, respected local magazine.
Oh yeah, that's
we were able to share that with people as we were building our brand, and take it with us into local retailers and say, hey, check out what we're doing. And that helped us grow, dude. That was an amazing kind of pillar for us to help us launch our brand. So I appreciate that.
And those are
from you and Nolan.
And that's, speaking of Nolan, that's the glue that Nolan is. We were talking offline a little bit about Nolan. He's my right-hand sales guy. We work together at multiple magazines, but all of us cut our teeth through Transworld, and that's how we all kind of formed our relationship. So every skill set that's brought to the magazine comes from that, learning at this top level, whether it was publishing for myself, sales for Nolan, photography with my partner, Zach Cordner, our designer, Dwayne, our managing editor, Aaron Schmidt. They all work for the magazine. And I think we saw an opportunity because the city was changing. The bubble was about to burst. I don't know how Oceanside held on so long to this kind of lower end rent and kind of being the best kept secret in San Diego, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But we all knew the bubble was going to burst sometime. And it just, sometimes things line up, just like the COBO relationship. We all came together. We saw the internet was taking over mainstream media. And I was out to prove that, hey, magazines are still a viable thing if you do them the right way.
Yeah.
And we kind of took all of our best tools and threw all the junk out of the toolbox, built one big toolbox and said, hey, this is how we're going to make a magazine that's going to be effective for the community. And, we put it on the line and we self-financed it. And, luckily it worked.
Well, not only did it work, but now you have the entire community support. I say the entire, with probably some exceptions.
A large portion.
A large portion of the local community support, proven through your recent fundraiser. The fact that we can produce a magazine even when things are not working as normal. We'll just leave it at that, right?
I mean, that's the thing about Oceanside, and I don't know if there's any other city. I've been fortunate enough to travel quite a bit in the world, internationally and nationally, and Oceanside's a big city, but it treats itself like such a tight-knit community. And it's crazy because it's so diverse. There's so many different types of people, so many different cultures. But one thing that Oceanside does is stick together.
Yeah.
And we just saw a perfect example of that. And thank you to the community, anyone that's out there listening, for supporting this quarantine issue that we put together and this COVID issue. But yeah, seeing all these people actually step up, because I would never put myself on the line to do a GoFundMe for a selfish reason.
Dude, it's tough.
It's tough.
First nonprofit I started just for fundraising was hell. I donated most, a large portion of the funds going into it anyway, just because, it's like it took so much for me to go to bat to ask for money from anyone,
right,
or even an organization. It's not part of my nature.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right. Yeah. Not to say there's anything wrong with it, but you're right. It's a tough step to take.
It is. And it's funny because there's a kid that's a great young photographer. I won't say his name, but he's a pretty prominent family here in Oceanside. And when he saw it, he hit me up. He's like, "Oh, I'm paying for your mortgage, huh?"
Oh,
and I'm like, "Did you watch the video? It's not about that. We're trying to give these advertisers, some continual advertising support to help keep their doors open in this time."
It always exists. That side of the equation, it's going to be there, and we get to choose what we let in, right?
Right.
And how we manage that, and how we allow that to affect our lives and our world and our business and all that. And you guys, I'll tell you, you guys are on the other side of that. You know what I'm saying? You're driving so much positivity in this community and so much growth in an organic way that still keeps it local and respects that.
Yeah. And I think that's the trick. I mean, it's funny. Some people think because you found a magazine or you own a business, they think you're automatically hit the big time, and you're
people have no idea about that shit.
They have no idea. It's
Pardon my French, but people don't know about that shit.
Yeah. If people saw the annual income that we pay ourselves to get this magazine out the door, they're like, my financial guy just last week was like, "You're crazy. Why don't you go get another mainstream job?" And I'm like, "But I can't. This is my path now.
This is what I need to do."
So I'm always rearranging my personal finances to make sure that we can continue to do this. And sometimes it's frustrating for my family because we did have that great job for so long, and I did put in 20 years of hard work and did some other personal things in my life that gave me a little bit of job security. But now on paper, I'm below the poverty line, and it's fun and exciting, but I go to sleep at night. I don't wear someone else's stress to bed with me. My heart rate isn't going through the roof. I know what I'm doing is pure, and the people that we have, I try to use. That's another thing about the O-Sider that it's us, we, our. We try to stay away from I, me.
Family.
Although I'm being interviewed, I need to remember to say we, us when it comes to the magazine, because it's very important. And that's part of that unity in the community as well. That's that rock in the pond, and those rings go out. If you start together, it grows together, right?
Totally.
Yeah, we could go out probably and hit a lot of mainstream businesses and go get TGIF and all those ads, but that would kill the magazine. You know?
Don't do that, man.
It would, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, don't do that.
The purity
please.
is the small business and the people out there that are struggling and the people out there that are putting themselves on the line to create something that's going to benefit this community and their personal lives too. Let's be honest. You want to be successful in your own right. You want, like you said, you want to be able to put braces on your daughter or buy a new surfboard or take a family vacation. But at the same time, you want to be able to rest easy at night knowing you're doing the right thing. So,
you know, you talk about community growing up here. This is kind of this is the backbone of the magazine is you guys are from here. You have an understanding of this city and where it came from, the history. You bring that history into the magazine. You also bring that perspective of growing up here and that passion with you into the magazine. That's why you're doing it, definitely. I assume.
Yeah.
Because you want to see the community thrive in a community way, not a franchised way.
Exactly. The fact that we don't have a Starbucks on Coast Highway here in Oceanside, can you believe that?
No.
And you know, there's been a couple times it was going to happen, and you know, the city's not perfect, and I try not to get into my personal politics here, and there's a lot happening downtown, and you know, income housing, and everyone gets all up in arms about it. But the only constant is change. And at least we don't have McDonald's just lining up and down Coast Highway. And we have small businesses that are individually making your coffee, like the cup down the street from you guys right here.
Bro.
Kalen and his brother, they put it down.
Daily.
And they're doing a great job, you know, and those are the people we want to support.
Yep.
You know, we'll take the In-N-Out because at least In-N-Out is a family-run business at some level.
Yeah.
You know, they may be a little bigger than most, but who doesn't like In-N-Out? But, you know, you start littering it up with all that stuff. There's a place for it in every city, but let's keep the downtown area running smooth, you know?
Agreed. So I do want to ask you a little bit. I mean, what was it like growing up around Oceanside?
Oh man, it's funny now because, you know, I'm a parent. I have a 24-year-old and I also have a 15-year-old daughter. Is looking how it was for me growing up in my era to my son's era to now my daughter's era. And they're three completely different eras of Oceanside. And the era I grew up is almost a distant memory for a lot of people. I always talk about the fact that Oceanside has, you know, lifelong locals, 10-year locals, 20-year locals, because we have matured as a city and we are, you know.
An evolution.
Evolution. I like the word evolution more than gentrification, you know. But when I was a kid, it was, you know, Oceanside was a pretty dirty town. When I first came up here, I was in, I think, second grade, and my mom said, we're moving up to Oceanside. And it had the highest crime rate in San Diego at the time. It was a huge military town. It had all these beautiful beaches and the Mission, the same stuff it had now, but it had this grit to it. I grew up in South O at that time in South Oceanside now, which is one of the sought after neighborhoods to live in. That was all Crips. Yeah. It was all Crips and surfers and bikers. Yeah. That's what it was, you know? And then downtown and north though, it was just battle royale down there. I think the San Diego gangsters and the LA gangsters were always battling for territory, for their prostitution and drugs. So there were stabbings. It was just ugly. And when you talk about prostitution, it wasn't like Vegas, you know, it was like
not high scale prostitution,
homeless. It was just really bad. And you definitely had to know how to scrap. I was always a lover more than a fighter, but there was always that pressure through junior high and high school.
Always.
You know, you go to a party and one of your friends steals someone's stereo or someone bumps him his beer, and all of a sudden there's this huge fight and they're expecting you to fight. And I'm like, dude, I'm talking to these three blonde girls and we're about to hit this bonfire. You guys want to fight each other?
Right.
Like,
I'm looking to surf in the morning, not get beat up or beat somebody up.
Exactly.
Dude. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, and that's the truth.
That's interesting. So there's a lot of gang activity and a lot of crime down here.
Oh yeah, it was really bad.
And this was how many years back?
I mean, so I was born in 70. I got up here by about 77, 78. So, you know, all the way through the 80s. And you got to think about it. I went to high school during the height of gangster rap era.
Right.
So it became just everyone was wearing Raiders gear. Everyone thought they were a gangster. Everyone wanted to outdo. I saw a guy get stabbed over here at the Albertos while I was in line and die in his twin brother's arms. On a Friday night house party. I saw a dead body by the time I was 10 out off Oside Boulevard where the Sprinter is now shooting BB guns at a can on a dirt hill. And we see this old dead black arm hanging out. You know, that was common. See people dead. People used to OD at Buck in the bathroom all the time.
Yeah.
That was like a regular occasion. You know, there was guns and knives pulled out over the basketball score at the local parks. And it was kind of funny because back then we kind of used that as like, yeah, it's Oside, like it's fucking Oside.
Don't stop in my town.
Don't stop in my town. If you do,
our surf breaks are for us.
Yeah, and it used to be like that. Your windows would get waxed and your car tires might get slit depending on where you went, and every neighborhood kind of had a clique. And as a surfer, we were lucky because, and a skateboarder, we could kind of dance in between all those gangsters. Because I went to school at El Camino on Oceanside High.
Gotcha.
So I knew a lot of the Valley guys, a lot of the Bloods and the Samoans, the Red Gangs, right? But then I lived in Fire Mountain and I hung out in South O every day. So I was around all the Crips all the time, but it was cool. I knew them both, but in different ways.
You didn't have to claim anything.
No, technically I would say that, South O is who my family is, like still today. A lot of those guys that would look after me are still there, and some aren't. Some are dead, some are in jail, some have got their lives together. And that's if I had to claim a hood, it's definitely South O.
South Oceanside.
And back then you kind of did.
Right.
The suicidals that used to hang right on this street, they used to be like, why do you hang out, with those Mayates in South O,
Damn.
And it's like, well, that's my homies. That's who I grew up with. Like, that's it. Like, that's my choice. It's not a choice. It's my life,
And dude, now I skateboard up and down South O, all the way into downtown, ride my beach cruiser around, just free as a bird, sometimes 12 to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, just cruising.
Yeah. And before you had to look over your back. And that's the funny thing. So then you fast forward to my son, growing up in the 90s to 2000s, he was kind of on the tail end of the change starting to happen in Oceanside. And he got into a lot of trouble, to be quite honest, as a kid, because he was trying to do the same thing I had to do, which was South O.
Size up to dad.
But I used to always tell him, like, dude, we were latchkey kids. We came from low income and all we had with each other. You live in a house in Fire Mountain, and I know I buy you your clothes and give you lunch money and all these things, so you don't really have to do this. But he felt that pressure. By then, though, it wasn't really like a Crip neighborhood anymore. It was a bunch of middle-class white kids pulling their socks up, buying Dickies, and trying to trying to dumb themselves down for this other part of Oceanside they're living in.
Yeah.
And then now you fast forward to my daughter, who's 15, and she goes to Oside High. There's not half as many fights as there were. I can drop her off downtown at the movie theater on a Friday night and not worry about it, and it's just crazy how each generation it's gotten cleaner and cleaner.
Sure.
And it's funny because to me, I have a lot of old friends that don't want anything to ever change, right? They live in this bubble and they think Oceanside should still be $250 to rent a room for the rest of their lives, and that it should be gritty, and that hamburger stands should still be here, and all these like low end things. And it's like, you guys, that's just not realistic, and for me, I do battle with that a little bit, because it's like, they're like, Oceanside's blowing up and we're getting kicked out and gentrified out of our neighborhood. It's like, you could have went and got a bank loan.
Right.
You could have opened up a pizza place. You could have tried to start a magazine. You could have went back to school and became a computer. No one's holding you back. And
Dude.
If you're getting passed up, it's kind of on you guys. Sorry, homies.
I tell people all the time, throughout the last 16 years, I've put everything that I owned, sold every single asset worth value that I've owned, and put it on the line for my passion projects 2 times now.
Right. Double
and
rotation.
I was looking exactly. I was looking, at not being able to pay my next 3 months worth of bills directly in the face. Like, I didn't know if in a week from now I was going to get paid by a client I delivered my work to, right? And if I was going to be able to make my mortgage payment, and then if I was going to get kicked out of my house,
right,
and be living where I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? I've been through this twice.
Yeah.
Just because I was willing to put it all on the line.
That's it.
For a passion project. And then I would wake up some days and be like, you know what? Just because I was capable of doing that with all my fingers and toes and my wits about me makes me super fortunate, man.
And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Super fortunate, dude.
Yeah. And we've talked, we hang out quite a bit, and it's funny, the similarities of our upbringings. And I think there's some commonality there in why we are the people we are now.
Charge.
Yeah. When you come from we'll say the wrong side of the tracks for lack of better phrasing, but it makes you value everything. And when you come from nothing, sometimes it's easy to say, I'm going to throw it all on the line and maybe I will leave with nothing.
Coming from that background is an interesting place, and I agree with you. I think it mobilizes us in a different way than folks that didn't grow up that way.
I definitely think so. It's funny because, you get into your 20s and you start branching outside of your neighborhood, or you start to travel or whatever, maybe you meet someone who grew up in, La Jolla, went to a UC, had the tuition paid, but they're the guy that's not smart enough to lock their car when they go surfing and they get their car ripped off. And you're the guy that's, driving a hoopty that's worth $2,000 and you got it locked tight because
right.
And I think that the biggest lesson that I take from growing up in Oceanside is street smarts. It's naivety is something that is ill afforded when you grow up in a community at that time period like that.
Yeah. And priceless.
Yeah.
That element is priceless.
Yeah. Whether it's a drug dealer or a business deal, if you're a good judge of character, you're going to make the right call. And I think that that's a gift that the spirits above, whatever you believe in, have gifted me with. Yeah. So
I see that's full circle right there.
But it is full circle, and it makes you appreciate where you're from, because that's one of the big lessons you get from it,
Man. Such value in that lesson, dude.
Definitely.
Much appreciate you sharing that with us, for sure, dude. All right. So you grew up here in this area. You guys start the magazine because you guys got a solid team with some experience.
Yes.
This is the storyline as I see it anyway, as I'm hearing. And you guys kicked this magazine off. There were probably some ventures prior to the magazine that got you guys in cohorts with each other, and probably other little things like the restaurant and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And that was before the magazine or after? Just curious.
This is before the magazine. So Charlie and I, who was my best friend growing up, we started the Privateer together.
Cool.
So that was going on, and we had some stuff happen where I was doing that. At the same time, I had left Transworld, started working for the competitor Surfer magazine, was commuting every day, and then doing the restaurant at night. And then corporate conglomerations came together and consolidated and went back to Transworld. Surfer had bought Transworld. So then it was really time for me to make a decision about myself. And I actually decided to bow out after, I think it was 12 years in that position. And I said, you know what, I can't be bought and sold anymore. You guys, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my best friends growing up, Louis Hayward at the time, was the original guy that kind of concepted the rough idea of the magazine. So him and my current partner, Zach Cordner, were saying, hey, we want to do a magazine, but we don't know the back end of the business. We don't know how to do it. But we think it's really cool. Carlsbad has one. So I actually, for about 2 months, kind of kept backburnering the idea because I was busy with the restaurant. I was changing my career. All these things were happening, right? And Zach would call me, then Louis would call me, then Zach would call me. And then finally, I just walked out of a meeting. We were about to do X Games China with CA Skate Parks.
Whoa. And I remember, X Games China, that was just several years ago,
5-6 years ago now.
Yeah, okay.
Right before we started the magazine.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's about the same time. All right, I'm putting it together.
Yeah, and I was just at my wit's end, and I literally walked out of the Monday meeting. I just said, you know what, you guys, I resign. I can't seem to find my footing with you guys. I know you got China coming up 2 weeks. I don't want to leave you high and dry, but I'm out of here.
But this ain't my play.
This is not my. I can't.
I get it, dude. You guys are making a play, and I'm not bought in
and I'm not,
anymore.
And you're paying me to do it, but you're not really feeling or giving me the freedom, microman, all that stuff. So, anyways, I got together with Zach, and we started really concepting the magazine and Louis, and I said, hey, here's what I know. Here's what's happening in print media. Here's what's happening with websites. If we do it, we have to do it in this way.
Right.
And then we self-financed the first issue, and we put it together, and Louis sold a couple big ads. I sold a couple. Nolan wasn't quite in the mix yet at this point.
Yeah.
And Zach was building it, and we got off to the races. And it was just funny because at the same time, I was still at the Privateer, and there was only a couple restaurants in Oceanside, and we saw it starting to bubble. So as we got into the first year of the magazine, it was like, whoa, I'm busting tables at night. I'm doing the mag during the day.
It's ideal timing, dude. When Oceanside, when you find a town that's growing and you get into ad revenue for, you know what I'm saying, in the mix of a beautiful concept, and then you make that come to fruition and you put it in the people's hands that are actually the people that need the ads.
Right.
It's sort of, it makes too much sense.
Yeah.
And it's working for you guys.
Well, you talk about like how you've, thrown it all on the line multiple times.
Yeah.
For me, that was one of the big first throw it on the line. I mean, the restaurant is, the rates of a restaurant. It's high fatality, but we had the money, we had the idea, and it was working. So that was maybe the first time, but this was the first time where I'd quit my job. The Privateer was only partial income. It wasn't enough to survive on. And we dove fully into this. And for those who don't know a lot about magazines, in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, there was multiple revenue streams. There was subscription revenue, right? There's advertising revenue, and then there's product revenue. Yeah.
But now we've transitioned away from subscriptions in almost every capacity because of online, I guess, subscriptions or the free online content with ads that are on the back end, that now that's how you make money.
Right.
So the revenue distribution channel, I would say, is now almost entirely away from subscription.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah. And there's a couple reasons. I think you touched on part of it. One, the internet changed the way people, get information. You used to have to wait a month for your magazine, and you waited with bated breath, and it came, and you opened it up, and you devoured the thing, right? But what happened is subscriptions became so valuable because they started doing the CPM, which is the cost per thousand, to advertisers.
No kidding.
So the more subscribers you had, the better ad rate you could charge. And then that's when the magazines really started battling through ad revenue, because it's like, hey, we have 100,000 subscribers in skateboarding.
Proof of subscription was essentially your collateral for advertising.
That's it.
And now it's, how many followers do you have?
Click-through rates, which is another data point that allows for you to vet an investment for someone else to produce an ad within your magazine. Exactly.
Talk about an evolution, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy. And what happened was the post office started realizing the value of this. So then the ABC started monitoring it. So when you got to a certain ad level and you were going to these big New York ad agencies, outside of your vertical niche, they wanted ABC documentation to confirm that, in fact, you're verified on the amount of subscriptions. Because I could just tell you, I make 50,000 copies, and you're like, he makes 50,000 copies. I can make 5,000 copies, right?
Yeah.
Not that we do that, but so what happened was we started getting into the point where mainstream media started coming into skateboarding. So now Milk, the Marines, Starburst, you name it, to even get in their mix, you got to have a minimum of 100,000 subscribers, if anything.
Wow.
And that's when Trans World Skateboarding really graduated, but it was also the beginning of our demise.
Makes a lot of sense.
Because we let the outside in. Because they needed the growth. We went, we were printing 400-page magazines. I was getting $10,000 pages from Milk. Meanwhile, our, vertical advertisers are paying a couple grand for ads.
Damn.
So now the people above us are like, wow, you had 40% growth. How did you do that?
Yeah.
Well, it was almost this false bottom because we were taking something that didn't really belong there and putting it into this vertical niche. And then the community was going, we don't want to be a part of this anymore. So then subscriptions start falling off, your ad rates go down, and you start to die on the vine.
So then that's a pivotal point when you need to evolve.
Exactly.
You've got to figure out a way to evolve or become a niche, high quality, ad-driven, community-based unit.
There it is.
And that's the OSider magazine.
The Bro. That's the goal. And
elevate the community, elevate the backbone of this community, which is the roots.
Yes.
And if you stick to that, and not like you need to know this, you already know it. If you stick to that, that's what's going to basically secure the longevity of something like that product life cycle, where it's like a spike in the beginning. Yeah. You guys probably didn't live through that. Other than I bet you the product life cycle for the magazine probably follows business growth locally.
100%. That was we didn't plan for it to be mainly about the restaurants. We wanted it to be about all the community.
Right.
But the reality is the restaurant community started to really grow, and it was something that people outside of Oceanside were hearing about. The tourists were coming here, finally had better places to eat, and the locals finally had better outlets. There was really, when I was growing up and your parents took you out downtown, there was Anita's, there was Angelo's.
Right.
And maybe like a couple diners, like older diners, like the Beach Break, they started in '88, but there were some seedier type, greasy spoons, but that was it. You couldn't go get a bistro burger with a micro brew.
All right.
You couldn't get you couldn't, we're laughing, because we're older, but it's
really,
the reality of where we're at.
But really, and you know what, dude, like, the path I took here, it was Portland. Well, if we go backwards, Greenwich, Connecticut, Manhattan, Portland, Oregon, Texas, Savannah, Georgia, Texas, South Carolina.
Right.
Right. Like, I've lived in places that have excellent food.
Oh yeah.
Let's be real.
Oh yeah.
We have some of the best sushi and quality food out of the Plot and the Wrench and the Rodent, the Privateer. Like I could go on, dude.
Yeah.
But these restaurants are pulling like their raw materials from Cyclops up the hill.
Yeah.
Or out of the back garden of their establishment.
Oh, 100%. And you can't beat that flavor, you know?
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's true value in the quality. And those folks are from here or close to it.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
And it's an experience that has, like, I say it, best sushi on the West Coast is here.
Oh, man.
The best fresh ingredients on pizza is right here at the Privateer, bro.
Definitely.
It's unbelievable. Like, I'm so blown away by how amazing this town is in that way, but really coming back to kind of like how we met too, is open arms to new business.
That's it.
Open arms to new business that's got the right like-minded mindset. It's not to toot my horn. I'm just saying, like, people of like minds, who do you want to be celebrating your successes with across the table over a beer someday? People that you have a good relationship with.
Right.
You can't have a good relationship with the corporate guy who just wants to buy up blocks and blocks of Oceanside.
Exactly.
And stack in whatever multifamily housing and charge them $3,500 in rent for a 1-bedroom.
Right.
Which is what's happening.
It is what's happening. So that's the other end of it is, you know, some you can control, some you can't, right? But I think that this community realizes that there's something special about that. And like I said, you've traveled and you've had taste other food cultures, but I've never seen anywhere where the chefs and the restaurant owners communicate in unison like we do here. I mean,
you guys share an app and a farm to source the same raw ingredients.
And then it really puts the onus on the chef to what are you going to create with it?
Exactly.
We're getting the same beets, we're getting the same cucumbers, but how are you going to change it? Right?
Which is the value of differentiation and offerings, not competitive.
Yeah.
It's exploratory
Yeah.
on what can you offer in value of service and quality that's different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's
100%.
incredible how the community is vibe like that. And it's just small enough. This community is like just small enough, but also just big enough to really leverage that as an asset.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I said, it's like that accordion. We're such a big city as far as volume of people, but it's such a small little tight unit of that culture. And it's funny because even when we first started the Privateer, and I don't know if other cities do this as much, maybe we're just, you know, smoking our own stuff a little too much, but like,
that's for sure.
I just send a pizza over to David. You know what I mean? Like it'd be Friday night and I know they'd be
just
eating sushi.
Yeah,
and I'd be like, hey, da-da-da. And I'd bring like 4 pizzas over.
Cool.
And then like a next Wednesday, all of a sudden I just see these huge sushi platters show up. And it's just like a little game we started playing,
That's
you know?
what's up.
That's kind of where we realized that we really had something with the O-Sider and the restaurant community. And then we started to do the food festival because, you know, we wanted to showcase that community together and how they do compete within the same ingredient bases, but how they really do pat each other on the back.
It's one of the most beautiful things that I've seen is that you are able to coordinate, not you, it's a huge group of people that coordinates the flavor, right?
Oh yeah.
That get us out at Goat Hill. And it's not just food, right? It's COBO Bottle, you've got musicians, you've got artists, you've got food, and you come out there and it's not in a competitive way. That's what blows my mind. Like everybody's walking around vibing on the same weird funky juices of one tent to the next tent to the next tent and celebrating it all on equal parts, dude.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is really cool. And my favorite part about the flavor is the diversity in the consumer. You know, you get like the retired couple, and then you get the young little hip hop kid, and then you get the surfer, you get the little hipster couple, and they're all sharing the same flavor.
Word.
You know, they're all sharing that same moment in the most beautiful place. I mean, if you've ever been to Goat Hill, I mean, where else would you want to watch the sunset and taste
best view in town?
50 of the best restaurants, bites outdoors.
Boozing, eating, getting the best food. Dude, I had some people come up. We bought tickets for some people, and some folks came up from Hillcrest area.
Okay, which is great dining area as well.
Yeah, they came all the way up here and they were blown away.
In the last 5 years, we went from having a lot of greasy spoon short order cooks to proper chefs.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about Dave and Wade, you got Chef Daniel Elliott, you got Sam at Privateer, you got, you know, Roddy and his crew over. I mean, the options are, you know, and it's really cool. Dude. Yeah. And that's the cool thing about the flavor too, is once again, you know, we don't make a ton of money on it. We cover the cost of the event, pay the rent and all that kind of stuff we need to do.
Plus some donations.
And then we donate, right.
To Oceanside Board Riders Club.
We pick something each year. You know, originally the first food festival we did was at the Mission. It was called Feast. And a buddy of mine, Neen's marketing, he does the I Love Poke festivals.
Okay.
And we had another Transworld connection. And he's like, hey, the Mission kind of wants to get a little bit younger with their donors. They've been doing this big cotillion ball, but everyone's 90, people are dying off, no offense, but age happens, life is short.
It's all in our future, bro.
Yeah, right. It's all in our future. There's one thing we're all going to do together, and that's die. But so we put it together and it all benefited the Mission, and it was cool, but we quickly outgrew it because if you're not Catholic, it's beautiful grounds and everything, but you're donating to a Catholic church. So if you're a Buddhist or into Judaism or whatever your cultural deal may be, it didn't really fit. So we kind of outgrew the Mission, and that's where the last few years we've gone to Goat Hill, and that's where it's matured and become what it is.
So man, what comes with the new equation? Like, when are we going to see another one, do you think, with all this, this new situation?
Yeah, I actually have to give a shout out to Curtis Baker. He does the Peer Club Party.
Yeah, Curtis is awesome, dude. Yeah, he sends it. Yeah, businessman too.
He's super rad guy, and he's a big part of, he's our partner. We brought him in because he produces events. Parties,
we talked about sponsorships before.
Yeah, whatever he touches, he does really good. He's got all the music relationships, and he knows how to do all the site design and all that stuff. So bringing him in was a huge part of it. And this year, what we did, which was really cool, is we did a silent auction, which definitely helps the Oceanside Board Riders Club, which is about educating the ocean community and protecting and preserving our resources. But then the other thing we did is, because we're heavily into photography, my partner Zach, is we started a high school photo scholarship.
Cool.
So we put away a chunk of money that we done
here at the Oside High,
at both Oside and El Camino.
Good for you.
We couldn't get all the high schools this year, but we got 2 of them.
Cool.
So in the next issue, you'll see there'll be a photo pictorial from each of these students that we gave this scholarship grant to. And it's not a lot of money, but it's a pat on the back.
Yeah.
They get to have a feature in the magazine, and they get a little bit of cash in their pocket for their new future. So we just basically cut them a check, and it's really up to them how they utilize it.
The student.
That's so maybe he's already got his tuition paid, but that money helps him, get a couple months worth of food, or maybe he needs a new lens, whatever it may be.
Cool.
And, our hopes are that it grows into something and just helps spur the creativity. I think right now, photography is so pertinent in today's world because of the technical social aspect. And it's like everyone can shoot a decent photo with the iPhone, but I think the creativity and the artistry of learning how to use digital cameras, the After Effects, even video, that stuff's going to continue to grow and change. And I think that the future is very much about this visionary picture that you put on your screen.
Totally.
So I think it's cool.
Well, this is what we're in this whole COBO Pod launch, right? Like just what you just said. People are watching and listening online and in apps content more now than ever in our history.
No question.
And it's not like Netflix is cached, right? It's not cashed in. It's going to keep coming. We're going to continue to watch the episodes, et cetera, but YouTube as a platform, Instagram, IG Lives, IG everything, the channels that you can create with hour-long videos such as podcasts.
No doubt.
We have someone in our ear or consuming our attention almost at all times.
Yes.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And the brilliance behind delivering, it's another route to market conversation, but for a different industry.
Yes.
So a photographer or a creator is working on every tiny bit of the details of that project is all about route to market for them.
Definitely.
And that is what is so beautiful, and also like copy paste logic from magazines to stomp pads at low tide to the flavor. Even how do you portray such a beautiful experience that people had last year to get them to the next one, all things considered?
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
are y'all thinking about that? Like what do you think's we just had the last flavor, a few months ago?
It was last October.
Oh wow. Sorry. I was off
yeah,
there.
no, time flies. We had it set for September 14th. We wanted to move it forward this year. But now with the pandemic, the global pandemic, it's changing everything. So really, we're just kind of on hold right now, and everything's set. The reservations are made, but we're just going to have to see what happens come July.
Yeah.
Because if we feel like we can push the button, that gives us all of August to be ready. But as you know, like Peyton, our deliverables will be in the can and ready.
Exactly.
And then it's just about pushing those out. And I laugh because the world has changed so much. Now you have two lives, right?
Yeah.
You're not just, you're curating your social life. This is who I want to be, or who I want people, or how people to see me on the internet. And then there's actually your real life, right? So now we're marketing ourselves more than ever. And it's like, take Bruce, on the cover of the new O-Sider, the quarantine issue.
Yep.
We
all know Bruce.
The first time I met Bruce, I thought he was committing suicide because the guy likes to go into the ocean in a wool coat and get beat up on the shore break against the rocks. Who knew, right? You think the guy's crazy? Call my buddy at the lifeguard station. They're like, oh, that's just Bruce.
He just literally enjoys that on the daily.
He can't put a wetsuit on. He's too old to get into a wetsuit.
Right.
So he just puts on a wool coat. He says he loves the ocean, doesn't care about the cold water, and he just wants to be in nature, and that's his deal. But it went from just him being a visual guy to locals to we ran a photo of him in the magazine. And the next thing you know, he started a Facebook page, the Oceanside Trench Coat Guy, Instagram, a YouTube page. Now he, at his 70-something years old, has curated a new life for himself.
Totally.
So now all these people that used to wonder can just go online like, this is Bruce. This is what he's all about. He's the trench coat guy. Totally. He loves the ocean. So that's the main difference, I think, now is, everything's on view.
My girlfriend always says that my Instagram page is the dreamer page.
You're the dreamer.
The dreamer, which she's like, you're totally the fucking opposite of a dreamer, dude. Like, you're the dreamer, but you've got every calculated element and step of that dream mapped out like 15 different ways.
Right. You're more the hypothesis.
Exactly.
But so yeah, point taken is that it can be inspirational, but it's there, and you are curating something about yourself that you would either like to help people get a different perspective on.
Yep.
Or perhaps that's the way you see yourself.
Yeah.
Or the way you'd like to be. Some people curate their whole day around their Instagram account.
There's a thousand formulas behind that and what's possible.
Right.
Like if you look at my girlfriend's page, she is her business.
And she's so talented, and I never even knew.
Murders it, bro. And now she has online educational courses on how to represent yourself on Instagram, because all of her growth is natural.
Right.
All of her growth is organic. But then again, she also travels to like 9 countries a year.
Yeah.
And meets thousands of people at conventions and stuff. And they're just like,
she's a celebrity in her field now.
She absolutely is. Yeah, absolutely is. But she has a formula.
Yeah.
Her formula works.
It wasn't an accident.
It's
right?
No. She's in over the last several years, really dialed that formula in. To your point though, there's a lot of ways that we can approach the gram and approach the social media and the professionalism of that, or whether we're the dreamer. And we've got a whole nother separate life, as coming back to what you were saying, is we live multiple lives.
Definitely.
Right now. Hopefully it's not the kind of multiple lives where you got a girlfriend and a wife and, one in LA. That's not you. That's not me. But no. I know folks that have those multiple lives. That's not the multiple lives we're talking about. We're talking about in a day, we go to work. That's our life. When we go home, that's our life. But now we have a digital life.
There you go. And you can create those paths if you work hard enough, right? It's like, you were talking about Low Tide, which is basically, that's my other passion project. I have a passion for the city of Oceanside, of course, and the O-Sider magazine, and my background is print media. So of course I'm going to go to what I know, but Low Tide is about really what my life stands for, which is the ocean and surfing.
Surf, dude.
And bringing it back full circle and being able to do something that allows me to continue to surf and travel and do those things. Right. Yep. So yeah, it's amazing. And you think I'd probably never want to leave Oceanside, but I spend just about as much time in Baja as I do in...
I was going to ask you, how are you doing with the borders being closed?
It's been tough. I mean, I would just be coming back from an annual drive down to the tip and back with some of our close friends. We call it the COBO side trip.
Oh, really?
And we've been doing it for about 20 years. This is the first year we haven't done it. We've flown down. A lot of times we drive down, but everyone's kind of got the point where we've all got our rooftop tents now and our Yeti coolers, and we've got our driving kits really cool, and we really all wanted to drive down this year, and it didn't happen. But we live to fight another day. There'll be more Mexico trips.
There'll be time.
But having a surf brand, I am able to go to Hawaii in the winter and get a taste of the North Shore and not feel like it's just a vacation, because I can go there for work, and do business and get some surfing. And same thing with Mexico. I can do R&D, product testing. I can bring athletes down there and build content for later dates and things like that. So I can kind of double dip there, which is nice.
Word. No, that's nice, dude. And I've been looking at, I went down to La Fonda. I think I talked to you just beforehand.
That's right.
Whenever I went down there, and I was blown away. The surf was perfect for me. You know, it was shoulder to head.
That's good.
2 days out of the 4 days I was there, twice a day.
Yeah.
And I think I went on a Tuesday, stayed through Saturday.
All about the weekdays down there.
And Wednesday and Thursday, I was the only person in the water, with the exception of certain times where the locals that live up on the ridge,
1 or 2 cats would paddle out, right?
Cats would come down, you know what I mean? But I had it to myself.
Yeah.
It's paradise. And you can sit in that cove right there, right?
And
you can sit in that cove right there and you can see the entire town from end to end while you're in the water, I think. It's like, what is it, like a quarter of a half a mile long?
Yeah. Dolphins jumping, you know, terracotta homes.
Dude.
You know, taco stands, all the good stuff, you know?
Massages on the beach.
When we go on a trip together, you're going to find out about more of Baja, like the northern Baja stuff.
Yeah.
Those are cool for 2 days, but once you get into the heart of Baja, the Sea Cortez, some of these spots where you got to know the right turn off to the right dirt road, and you're dry camping and it's just you and your friends, whatever happens. That's the real Baja. Like, your cell phone's only good for photos.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no Wi-Fi, and you go out and you just get dirty for a while.
I like that.
And you know, I'm 49 and you'd think I'd grow out of it. I love it more than ever, because surfing something that was part of my life, my whole first 20 years, and then you get into the next 20 years of your life and you work hard and you raise a family. And now my son's 24. My daughter's only got 2 years of high school left till college. And, you know, you're going to catch me down south quite a bit, because I really like getting back to those
it's playtime, man. This is what I try to tell people all the time, right? This is what I try to tell people all the time. Like, whatever, you can say these cliche statements like, age is just a number, blah, blah, blah. We've heard it all, right? But I try to be a kid every day. Like, I fall down and it hurts more. Age is real, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
really
I've
real.
got little ticks and things and messed up hands and all these things. Age is a thing. Experience is a thing. It follows you. This is real. It's not just a number, folks. But let me tell you, you don't have to stop having fun and driving towards your passions and experiencing that stuff on the daily. Like, I fall off my skateboard all the time. I skate down that hill at least once a day.
Oh yeah, I'm nursing a sprained wrist right now.
Yeah. And it's like, if there's any message I have to give to any young person, middle-aged person or old person, keep having fun, man.
Yeah.
And you're doing it.
Yeah. And you know, it's like, I know you shared my workout partner, Rodrigo, at Barefoot Movers.
Dude,
and,
that dude is not only he's got an equation that's on another level of not only cool, but effective.
Right. And he's another guy, like when I first saw him, I was down at Buccaneer at the local beach, and I'm like, who's this long-haired, kind of Argentinian looking guy, and he's balancing on everything, and is he off his rocker? God, he's super fit. And, you know, I'd throw my ball to the dog every morning, and I'd watch him, and I'd start to see he's working out with people. And one day I just stopped and talked to him, and it really comes back to what you were just saying a few moments. Go out and move every day.
Exactly.
When you were a kid, you moved every day, whether you were picking up a skateboard, taking out the trash, and then you get older and you sit in your chair and you get metacarpal syndrome because you're on the computer all day. Just get out and move. And the things we take for granted, just getting up off the ground.
Totally.
If you do that the right way and do the animal flow stuff that he's got, it changes everything. And then when you do go to do those fun things, your body's ready, right?
I couldn't agree more.
And I wish I would have found him about 5-10 years ago.
Dude.
It would have been insane.
If you just had somebody like that attached to you for the last few years or several, man. But you know what? It's not too late to start. That's what's really cool about his practice and the way he trains. He's very much in tune with his clients.
Yeah. And it's crazy. Like I was never one to do the gym. Like I was always just that energy ball.
I can't stand the gym anymore, man.
I'd surf, skate, and play basketball all day as a kid. That was what the three things that I did energy wise. Plus when you're a kid, you know, you ride your bike to your friend's house. You hang at the beach all day in your wetsuit till your neck is purple, you know.
Totally, dude.
You know, and you get older and you like can't even walk down the street to the corner store because your car's right there, you know, and you can see the store and you get in your car, you know, it's so ridiculous. So just those mental lessons. And I think that's what Baja does for me, is it recharges those batteries and those primal thoughts. It's like, I can be asleep by 8 o'clock when I'm on a camp trip because I surfed 3 times and, you know, drank a gallon of water and you have a couple beers and you're good. You don't need to you know?
There's something about surf that I found myself evolving in a different way. I'm not a great surfer. I've only surfing about 7 years now.
Right.
But now that I know that I can surf pretty much any like wave that comes my direction, you know what I mean?
That confidence,
for the most part, I'm gonna do it.
Right.
And I'm gonna have fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a blast on the face of this wave.
Exactly.
Every time when you're
gonna end with a smile.
Exactly. and so I'm at a point where I'm able to experience it
more. Yeah.
rather than have it be it was never a chore, but it was more like I was attacking it.
Well, the learning curve of surfing is longer than almost any other sport or activity.
More technical,
because you have to know the ocean.
More variables.
You're using your arms, you're using your legs, you're using your breath control. So it's a very complex thing. The learning curve, just to be able to understand how to paddle out, get it to the outside, how to paddle.
You can pull it too, dude.
How to paddle out, get to the outside of the lineup, spot a wave, know how to paddle into it without your nose sticking up.
Where's the fast part? Where's the slow part?
And that's just the first part. Then once you learn how to trim, then you start learning how to go from rail to rail. So there's learning curve. And a lot of my friends young quit because of that.
Yep.
And I was enamored with it. I just dove right into it. But the point being is now that you're comfortable, you can enjoy that ride. I think it was a movie, there was a surf movie called, I think it was Seedling that Taylor Steele did. And it was this really kind of like, it wasn't like a high action surf movie. It was really spiritual, vibey, slow-mos music. And they were doing a voiceover and Joel Tudor was speaking. Joel Tudor's was San Diego longboard legend, kind of a throwback really. Should have been born in another time. Should have probably been born in the 60s. Love you, Joel. He's awesome. Good friend. But in the movie, he says something like this: Ponce de Leon spent his whole life traveling around the 7 seas trying to find the fountain of youth. All he had to do was jump off the boat and get in.
Oh yeah, dude.
And you know, I love that because it is, surfing really is the fountain of youth. You see those guys out there that are in their 70s and they're still, yeah. We have a guy that surfs with us at Buccaneer, Bill, and we call him 60-year-old Grom. He's 65, he's about to retire. He surfs more than any of us. He's frothed out of his mind. You get there, he's already out in the water. And he can't surf like he did in his 20s, but he's still surfing and enjoying the hell out of it.
There was a guy.
That just motivates me, you know?
That's awesome. There was a guy that reminds me of this guy we called Tiny, and he was about 5'1", 5'2", and he had
a guy named Tiny that was actually tiny.
Yeah, he was really tiny. Ironic, eh? Yeah. And he had this convertible drop top, and he would show up with about a 9 foot. It was a 9 foot longboard, high performance longboard, and he would paddle out at Agate Beach in Oregon, on the Oregon coast on big days, and he would ride that longboard like I had never seen anybody ride, and he was always out there pretty much at sunup.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Out in that open water,
and he was teaching us all a lesson on every single wave he would drop into.
Awesome.
It was incredible. But yeah, and he was probably 65, 60s,
probably fit as
for
a fiddle.
Sure. Oh, bro, shredded and fit. You know what I'm saying? So surf was a big part of the backbone of what you've been doing with Low Tide for sure, because you're passionate about that. And we kind of coming back to, we talked Baja, we talked all that, but so tell me more about Low Tide.
Basically growing up, surfing saved my life, growing up kind of in Oceanside, and the ocean was always kind of the latchkey haven, right? The Buccaneer Beach. But I was always a skateboarder too. And I actually got to the point where I became a professional surfer in my 18 to 22. I was doing this tour they had along the California coast, Hawaii and Puerto Rico, called the Bud Surf Tour. And I loved the tour, but all the surfers that I hung out with, I didn't really groove with, because I was kind of this street kid from Oceanside, and I kind of loved the rawness of skating. So right after my pro surfing career ended, I had this sponsor called Track Top, which was surf traction. So my first job really outside of being a professional athlete was working for the surf traction company.
Cool.
It was right here in Oceanside, and it was really cool. So fast forward, I work in Trans World Skateboarding. I spent all this time with skateboarders, and I kind of got sponsored skateboarding as well along the way. And kind of probably from like 23 to maybe 33, I wasn't spending as much time surfing. I was immersed. I was the publisher of Trans World Skateboarding. So I was traveling the world, skating, being with pros. My son was really into skateboarding. So I kind of let the surfboard go. And the thing that I noticed, not to be too long-winded about the difference between surfing and skating, is skateboarders said what they wanted, did what they wanted, wore what they wanted, put the sticker that they wanted on their board, where surfers were kind of vanilla and kind of just really polite to each other and kind of fake. And so when all this happened, I decided I want to start a brand. I wanted to do a brand that represented the things that were true about me. I wanted a brand that felt like a skate company, but was about my roots surfing, but also catered to the blue collar oceanside type of person.
Bro, you just made it all click for me now.
That's exactly what it's about.
When I see Low Tide now, when I saw Low Tide before from a branding perspective, I was like, this is send it, this is raw, and it's kind of not a fuck you, but it's sort of like, I do what I want.
Yeah,
I do what I want. And you know what? I'm going to kill it while I'm doing what I want.
That is so funny because that was the first meeting I had when I picked out my team guys.
Yeah.
Was we do what we want. That was actually like my tagline of the meeting. It's funny that you just said that. So that makes me feel good.
Well, then you're nailing it, dude.
We were nailing it.
But you're nailing it. And then you tell me the brief backstory on it. It makes a lot of sense.
I always talk about someone has been looking after me up there. I'm not sure how or why, but like the story of how surfing changed for me is it's like a fairy tale. Basically, there used to be a GNS, Gordon Smith, which was a big San Diego brand, surf store over by where El Torito used to be in the Roadhouse.
Okay.
Over there on Vista Way and Oceanside. And I lived a
I know
little bit
where
inland,
that is.
And I couldn't always surf after school, so we were the little shop rats. So we would come, there was benches and like Danny Way and Mario, all these great skaters. That was the only place you could really buy skateboards around here. So I had this inner circle of all these skateboarders around me. We'd skate every day during the week and then surf the weekends after school.
Cool.
And I'll never forget, it was 1983. I was 12 years old and we were closing up the shop at the end of the day and we were the last kids. It was almost dark. We were getting ready to go. And Whit Rowlett, who owns Whit's Carlsbad Pipelines, was the store manager of GNS. And he'd always kick us out at the end. He'd say, all right, all you kids, there was like 10 of us that would hang out at the store, right? Because back then, the store was the internet, the store was the magazine,
totally,
it was
dude.
everything. Whatever shop you were with, that's how you learned everything, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, hey, Jamey, you need to stay after I close up and just hang out. And I was like, thinking to myself, oh shit, did I not do the trash? Like, because we had chores that he would to let us hang out, we had to pay our dues. And all the other kids left. He's like, hey, I didn't want to say this in front of the other kids, but I've been watching you surf and there's a surf contest tomorrow and I want you to enter it. I had never thought about entering a surf contest. I was 12 years old. I was just dirty little white boy, like scumbag little skater, and I was like, really? And I thought he was messing with me. He's like, no. He's like, here's $25. Here's the order form. Be down there at 6 a.m. And I was like, shit. So I went home. No one ever gave me $25 outside besides my parents,
Right.
And I got to the contest, rode my bike to the contest. And this is a defining moment in my life, really. I surfed all day. I ended up getting second place in the first contest I ever surfed.
Bro.
And Vinny De La Pena, who ended up becoming one of my mentors, he was the founder of Ezekiel Clothing.
Wow,
who I
really?
worked for, beat me in that contest. We became lifelong friends.
Damn.
I came back the next Monday to the GNS store, just super stoked. I had a trophy. I'd never had anything of that kind of self-worth. My mom was awesome, but I'd never had something like, I did this. I'd never had like the moment.
Totally.
So I went back to thank Whit. And, 12 years old, just about to turn 13, 1983. I still have the trophy.
12 years old.
12 years old. And he goes, oh, I thought you'd make the final. He goes, pick out $500 worth of clothes and let's order you a custom surfboard.
Damn, dude.
Now he's like, you now ride for GNS. And that's what changed my whole life, that moment. And I went home, like I just got to order a custom brand new 5.2 twin fin Terry Goldsmith for free and 500 retail value of clothes. My mom brought me back because she thought I had shoplifted the clothes. She's like, this is not real. No way. How'd you get this? And Whit said, no, we're going to sponsor your kid. So that was the beginning of the change of my life from being a dirty little white boy that probably would have been a gangster like the rest of my friends or been a little burglar or a drug addict.
Sure, dude.
That was it.
Was somebody to believe in you and show you, not even show you, just give you an opportunity to say, hey, give it a go.
Yeah.
And then you gained confidence in yourself to be something more than just...
I realized that was the outgoing competitive nature I had. And it did a number of things because one, it gave me the confidence. Two, I was busy every weekend till I turned 22. I basically surfed a contest every day of my life from that point on.
Yeah.
I just threw away my trophies about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I just realized they're just pieces of plastic, but there was a lot of trophies.
That's cool.
I could fill that corner up, because every weekend there was a LA contest or a San Diego contest or
I have a question. Do you think that that what you just explained, which is really fucking cool.
Isn't that crazy?
That's really cool, dude.
Thank you, Whit, for believing in me.
Word.
Yeah.
Man.
Rowlett, Carlsbad Pipelines.
I thank you too, dude. You know what I'm saying? Because do you think that, and this is just kind of a personal question, that opportunity that you had was offered to you. You know what I'm saying? And you took it.
And I took it. Yeah.
Has that affected sort of your send it attitude that, you know what, I can probably handle this, whatever it is?
Yeah. I think for me, it's really weird. My wife and I talk about this all the time because she's like, how do you just trust that things are going to work out? And she's definitely a half empty and I'm a half full guy. And once again, I just feel like someone must be looking after me because some of the things that have happened in my life, I'm like, how did I get lucky like this again? Like I really feel blessed. And I think it's a little bit of confidence, but I think I was so hyper. I just live in the moment. So I'm not a person that would analyze, like, if I lose, what's this going to do to me? It was just like, I'm here now. And then, oh, I won. And then the next day I'm skating again and not even thinking about the next contest till I'm in that moment, right?
It's so fucking cool that you had an opportunity in a thing that you were passionate about too and excelled at, dude.
It's funny because it really set up my whole life because it changed the dynamic of the information that I was bringing in, because now all of a sudden I'm not just hanging out with my same crew in South O that are doing the same shit. Dude. I'm gone every weekend. I'm hanging out with a guy from San Clemente, a guy from Huntington Beach, a guy from Santa Cruz, a guy from La Jolla. So now my world's much bigger than just Oceanside. So I started realizing the ignorance of our town in some bad ways, some of the negative points.
Yeah.
And there was a couple older guys that kind of pulled me in. They knew I was a tough kid. Like I got freshman year, they all pulled me outside of a party and beat the shit out of me and left me in the gutter, but it was all my friends.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, welcome to being in high school. That back then when hazing was appropriated or whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
Or just part of life. But at the same time, it was like, no, don't pass this joint to him. He's got a contest tomorrow.
Gotcha.
You know, so there was a level of protecting me because now I became this, almost like this little jewel that they put on a pedestal, like Jamey Stone's from Oceanside. He's out there representing us, so let's not fuck him up.
Totally.
Kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I see pictures of you back when you were surf competing in local restaurants, dude.
Yeah, I was a skinny little guy. People look now, yeah, this is not my competitive body. I was, I was lean and mean, but
what are you talking about? You're a sexy beast.
Yeah. I'm a teddy
Austin
bear.
Austin and I were having sushi one time down in Carlsbad, and you go walking by on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And Austin was like, that dude's a fucking unit.
It's so funny. My favorite thing at this age and size is when I'm skating down the street.
Oh, I bet.
Because I can actually ride a skateboard more than just like push. So I'll you be at the skate park and do a trick, and like I can see the young kids going like,
what just happened?
My dad don't skate. Like, look at the size of that guy. Oh, but when I fall, the ground shakes.
Oh,
for
yeah,
sure.
dude. Yeah.
Kind of back to that. Yeah, surfing definitely molded me, and the whole time it was like, I was sponsored, so I had a direction, I had guidance, I was getting pushed, my shapers, and as I graduated, different things started taking me to different waves, but I was always a skateboarder at heart.
Yeah.
And that's what really the backbone of Low Tide became. I was a blue collar kid from blue collar community that loved skating, but was sponsored surfing, and surfing was a little too fluffy for me.
Yeah.
So that's what we decided with Low Tide, and I got to give a shout out to my partner, Chris Hughes at Low Tide MFG, because the first 6 months we started the business, he wasn't involved, and he had come to me and wanted to get involved, and I'll do it myself. I'll find the factories. I'll do all this. The skill set he brings with the web design, with the product testing, with everything is like, we wouldn't be able to do it without him. And what we realized is we work really well together, and it's hard to find someone when you're a visionary that you can sell your vision to, but then they could put it on paper. And he's really good at that, because it's like everything we did, even down to the logo, was hand drawn by my tattoo guy.
Cool.
It's all really a signature of the things that I enjoy. And Chris has jumped in and he loves that stuff too, but he's really embodied it and been able to take the vision and put it onto paper, which is really cool.
It really is a magical thing. Brands like that don't get created out of thin air.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not an idea. That's exactly where I was going.
Yeah.
It's a lifetime of experience that goes into the meat and potatoes of your brand, dude. And it's a cool thing. So where can we find you?
So right now, obviously, lowtidemfg.com or just at Low Tide MFG on social media, Instagram, all that good stuff. But locally, we're at Chemistry Surfboards, Surf Ride Oceanside, Surf Ride Solana Beach, Asylum Surf Shop.
Damn.
Timmy Patterson up in San Clemente. The other thing that we want to do, because working at Transworld for so long, I saw these companies come in with deep pockets and just try to take market share right away and be this huge $100,000 company right out the gates and be at $1 million by 2 years. is I wanted to do it the really old school chest pass way. I wanted to come in and really take care of my backyard, because what I've learned about marketing, once again, right? Not much college education here, but just field learning, is that you can create a great brand and you could sell it to as many stores as you want. But if no one knows what the brand is, you end up on the sale rack and you never get a chance again.
Word.
So the idea for me is to take kids locally. We don't have any top level pros in the sense of John Florence or these guys that are going to be at a big signing at the US Open. I have really good underground guys in my backyard that represent the brand. And what that does is the kids that are surfing every day see those local guys and they go into the local shop and ask for the brand. And as that brand grows through San Diego out to Orange County, it's going to keep doing it that way. And we haven't made a penny on it. I've only put money into this thing.
I get it.
And I'm sorry, babe, my wife, Alicia, I know I keep putting money into this brand, but it's going to work. And we're seeing that start to turn now. Now the brand is aware enough to where we are getting the sell through in the stores we're at. And right before this whole COVID thing, we had just hired a sales rep and we were about to go and do a little expansion, and we just kind of had to go on hold. So right now it's a lot of web sales and a lot of direct surfboard manufacturers locally.
Yeah, we've transitioned everything to web sales.
Yeah.
Because retail's, died for 2 straight months.
Yeah.
And events and conventions, and as I was sharing with you before.
Yeah.
So, and e-commerce wasn't a platform that I liked because, our brand, we like to be out in front with people, on the streets with people in the street markets. And it was in the green. We did really well. We were able to donate $10,000 to philanthropy last year through our sales.
And you've done a lot of stuff with us,
Absolutely, dude. It's been, and that's where we want to stay, and that's where we're going to stay, both as a COBO Pod brand and as a COBO bottle brand. Actually, the COBO Pod is going to offer deep discounts at cost for educators and students to come in here and produce, create content, standardize curriculums for academics, like standardized programs, training, and stuff like that, either for the student or for educators to come in here and shoot. So that's why we're a .org. Once more, everything that we create is a .org, and everything that we create goes back to some sort of earth or socioeconomic investment that's tangible that we can put our hands on, a lot like Oceanside Board Riders Club. Folks where we can sit down and share beers and good conversations with the people where our money's going.
Yeah. And
that's where it is.
And that's what it's all about. I mean, we didn't even really mention talking about Oceanside Board Riders, but that's something, once again, that happened organically. Sitting around at the bar at the Privateer, actually just talking about how many more people are moving to Oceanside and how the lineups are getting more crowded. And, I've always been a big fan of education. And I think the old way to educate someone was to break their fins out and tell them to go in when I was coming up, which didn't really teach you much. But if there's a beginning surfer paddling out and he doesn't know something, I'd rather say, hey, dude, you're kind of getting in people's way. Do this, or get on the nose of your board more, or maybe. So the idea was to educate about, not only about how to treat the ocean, how to keep the beaches clean, how to keep the lineups clean, how to make it a positive thing, but also how to teach the etiquette in the lineup.
Yeah.
I would never go down to a beach in La Jolla and paddle straight to the peak and try to take the first wave, because that's not my domain.
Sit there on the outside,
wait your turn,
send them smiles, be down that way.
Work your way into the lineup, So I think that's something that the board riders have been really good about. And then also giving back to the community through surfing.
Totally. I see what you guys are putting down, dude, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah. I have to give a shout out to our whole board too, because it's way beyond just me. I mean, we had the rough idea, but the way the board came together, and Chris Abad now, who's technically the secretary, but he's kind of become the glue because he, one, had the time, and two, he started, coaching the Oceanside High surf team. He just really dug in with both feet, and kudos to him for picking it up, because, we came up with the idea and we create the structure, but it really comes down to the people day to day that donate their time and energy.
That's the way philanthropy is, man.
That's how it should be.
It's super time consuming to do it right. And the people that are behind it have to be passionate about and have to believe in it.
Yeah. And it's funny because that was one of the things that I felt I lacked as a youth, even though I did tell you the story about how I got sponsored. That was a 1 in a million needle in a haystack situation. But what I realized when I started competing is all these other communities have generational support like this. San Clemente breeds the best surfers in the world.
They do.
Because it starts at a young age through the community. You go down to T Street and Matt Archibald and Oceanside. When I used to go, it was like we had Chewy Reyna and Mike Lambresi. who I really looked up to, but they were kind of doing their own thing already. There wasn't like a surf club like Win and Sea Surf Club, and you go to Australia and all these kids start in the surf club. Joel Parkinson's, the Mick Fannings, the David Rostovich. No matter what style surfer you are, you're part of that surf club, and it's almost like small town football.
Exactly,
right?
Dude, but better because it's got a respect for the earth, dude, and Mother Nature, and it gives back.
Yeah, and you got to know, and you got to know your lineups. Like, I know who the top dogs are at the Harbor, at the North Side, South Side, Buccaneer, you know, Cassidy. And if we can let all the new people know, like, hey, don't cut that dude off because that's not going to end good for you.
Yeah.
You know, everyone, you know what I mean? It's like, it's like, hey, that guy's been surfing here for 45 years, dude. Like, go ahead, be a tough guy.
He's going to drop in. Just don't get in his way.
Don't get in his way. And it's not just for the rippers. You know, when you're young and you're competing, you think, oh, I have to be the hardest ripper. I have to catch the most waves. Just like any sport, you want to be the best consistently. But you get older and you realize it's about the fun and the camaraderie. I get so stoked. There's a couple young surfers that I really enjoy just watching surf. And sometimes, like, it's funny, people drive by the old Buccaneer wall and we're sitting on the wall like a bunch of old bumps on a log, but you know what?
I haven't seen that like every morning before,
yeah. And they're like, why aren't you out there? And I'm like, well, I'm actually kind of watching this 14-year-old kid, and he just learned how to do really good cutbacks, and it's kind of psyching me out right now.
Right.
And I'm like getting more juiced off watching him surf than actually paddling out, you know?
That's cool.
And that's kind of what the Board Riders does. And it's for everyone, board riders, not just short boards, not just fishes, not just longboarders.
Yep.
And anyone can get involved, and we're going to, you know, do beach cleanups, and we're going to donate money to scholarships and do all that kind of fun stuff. And so, yeah, pretty cool.
Dude, always appreciate your perspective.
Thank you.
And I thank you, dude. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it.